is the best fighter on the planet. Pound for pound, he's that dude. In this 4-belt era, he is now the undisputed world champion 3 times over. 140 pounds, 147, now 168 pounds.
If Bud was the best, I got to give it to him. Bud the best, right? He's hands down. He's the best. He's the best right now. I don't think nobody need to question him no more. I mean, you kind of got to give him his respect no matter what. You got to give him his respect. He just went up 2 weight classes what people said he couldn't do. He's doing everything that people say he can't do.
I've been a world champion, as you know, and I've been a 3-division world champion. But I've only won one of the belts. I don't know what it is to be undisputed. I don't know that feeling. Do you understand? What he did last night is unbelievable.
Stephen A. Smith pushed back against Floyd Mayweather for downplaying Terence Crawford's victory over Canelo. Smith emphasized that Crawford's achievement was historic, noting that no other fighter has ever become undisputed across multiple weight classes the way Crawford has. He argued that Crawford has fully earned his legacy and deserves universal respect rather than criticism. For Smith, Crawford's triumph over Canelo wasn't just another win, it was a defining milestone that elevated him into the conversation of all-time greats. He made it clear that Mayweather's negativity cannot diminish the magnitude of Crawford.
Is the best fighter on the planet. Pound for pound, he's that dude. In this 4-belt era, he is now the undisputed world champion 3 times over. 140 pounds, 147, now 168 pounds, claiming all the belts. You don't see people doing that very often. Going up against a guy who was perceived as being bigger and stronger, Crawford was strong. Crawford was strong enough to fend him off, strong enough to make him respect his own power. He used his jab, he used his distance.
Jeff Mayweather didn't hold back when discussing the shock Terence Crawford delivered to Canelo, stressing that the loss will forever leave its mark on Canelo's legacy. He noted that Canelo had been the undisputed king of the division, carrying both dominance and prestige over everyone he faced. But that image crumbled when he suffered a humbling defeat to a man who dared to move up in weight and challenge him on his own turf. For Jeff, this wasn't just a minor blemish, it was a permanent stain on Canelo's boxing story. He underlined that champions in their prime are defined by signature moments, and for Canelo, that moment will always be remembered as a crushing defeat at the hands of Crawford.
But either way, he was in discussion certainly with Chavez. What did this do to his legacy? Because I don't think he caught, the Floyd fight didn't give him, people didn't really look down on him because even though he had 40 fights, he was still, fighting one of the greatest ever and an absolute master. In Bivol, he went up weight classes to win. But now he's fighting a smaller guy, a great fighter, but a smaller guy. Does this damage his legacy in any way?
I think it does. Because, the one thing is this, is that, you were ruling, you were the king of that weight class. And the king of that weight class for a good while. And I think that, he had a huge following because, he became the face of boxing.
And even though it's another, future Hall of Famer, still losing, losing a guy come up a couple weight classes, kind of makes you seem not as great as you might have been.
Stephen A. Smith was captivated by Crawford's victory, openly expressing his admiration. He highlighted that being present for such a historic moment made the experience even more powerful for him. In Smith's view, no fighter in boxing history has ever accomplished what Terence Crawford just did, moving up in weight and dismantling a dominant champion like Canelo with such authority. He described it as a career-defining triumph that separates Crawford from his peers and guarantees this night a permanent place in the sport's history. For Smith, it wasn't merely a fight, but a monumental redefinition of what true greatness in boxing looks like.
This was Terence Bud Crawford moving up 2 weight divisions, really 3 in my mind, because we only fought 1 fight at the junior middleweight division. So he's really moving up from 147 pounds, okay? Terence Bud Crawford moving up to the 168-pound limit in an effort to claim the undisputed super middleweight championship of the world from the grasp of Saul Canelo Alvarez. Now, I was there because let me tell you something right now. There's very, very few sporting events in the world that are better than a super fight in Vegas. I can tell you that right now. There's very, very few events. Props to Nick Khan of the WWE
Crawford's trainer was adamant after the fight that his fighter has nothing left to prove. In his eyes, Terence has reached a level where his respect should be beyond question, yet some critics continue to withhold it. That frustration reflects how, even after dismantling one of the biggest names in boxing, Crawford is still forced to contend with narratives outside the ring. The trainer made it clear that Crawford isn't even considering another fight right now, because his performance against Canelo alone is enough to secure his place among the greats. For Crawford, this moment wasn't about chasing opponents, it was about building a legacy that can never be denied.
Terence Crawford and his well-renowned trainer, two-time trainer of the year and future Hall of Fame trainer, Brian Bomac McIntyre, recently did an interview in which Bomac stated that a fight is not happening. And this particular fight is a fight that everybody wanted to see Canelo Alvarez take, and Canelo Alvarez refused to take this fight with a 28-year-old two-division world champion, reigning WBC light heavyweight, former two-time WBC super middleweight, the Mexican Ecuadorian superstar boxer, was one of my favorite fighters and a great person, David, the Mexican Ecuadorian monster Benavidez, who has 30 wins, no loss, no draw, 24 wins by way of knockout, stands at 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach, and fights at 175. But the entire time David Benavidez was fighting at 168, Canelo Alvarez was brought up, and he never accepted the fight. And so, with that said, now people are trying to project this fight on Terence Crawford, and they're saying that Terence Crawford needs to take the fight. So Bomac yesterday did an interview, and Bomac said they're not fighting David Benavidez. And so now people are pushing this notion that Terence Crawford is ducking and Terence Crawford is scared of David Benavidez. And if he don't fight David Benavidez, according to Boxing News 24,
Timothy Bradley delivered one of the boldest takes by putting Terence Crawford side by side with Floyd Mayweather. He insisted that Crawford's name now deserves to sit at the very top of the greatest of all time debate. For Bradley, this wasn't just about Crawford defeating Canelo, it was about reshaping what pound-for-pound supremacy truly means. He acknowledged Floyd's mastery of the sport in his era, but argued that Crawford proved he could perform at an even higher level by conquering Canelo at his peak. In Bradley's view, this victory elevated Crawford into a rare class reserved only for the sport's absolute legends.
It might be too late now. It might be too late, because guess what? He done. Ain't nothing else he needs to do. Ain't nothing else he needs to do in boxing. Yep, y'all doubt him now? Y'all doubt him now? I saw some of y'all goofies on y'all channels. You come here and you get the real over here. That's what you get over here. You want the real? You want a real breakdown from a real fighter, a Hall of Famer? That's what you do. You come right here and you gonna get the real and you gonna get the truth. Dang it, that's what you gonna get. Leave them other lames alone and come right on over here. Yeah, and get the truth and nothing but the truth. I've been trying to tell y'all for years about this. Been trying to tell y'all for years about Terence Crawford. Everybody put his resume down.
Roy Jones Jr. offered a thoughtful comparison, noting that unlike when Floyd Mayweather defeated Canelo years ago, this time both fighters were in their absolute prime. He pointed out that Floyd benefited from facing a younger, less seasoned Canelo, which allowed him to win with superior skill and ring IQ. Crawford, on the other hand, went up against a fully developed, battle-tested version of Canelo, the same fighter who had ruled his division for years. Despite being the naturally smaller man, Crawford dismantled him with precision. For Roy, that's what makes this victory extraordinary. Crawford conquered a stronger, wiser, and sharper Canelo than the one Mayweather ever encountered.
Generational great in Canelo Alvarez, really 3 weights above his natural weight class. Does that put him in the conversation with the likes of yourself as the greatest fighter of all time?
Yes, it does, and the reason it does is because he couldn't get the credibility down in his own weight class, so he went up to go challenge himself to find it, and he found a very formidable, good opponent.
Do you think Canelo Alvarez is on the decline or not?
No, I don't think it's on decline at all.
So you think both fighters are still at their peak, even though they're 36, 37?
Yeah, I think they're both still at their peak. The age for Crawford would seem like he may be beyond it, but he hasn't had the fights, the tough fights we have put him there. And the years of boxing for Canelo would have put him in a position where they're about equal. So I think they both are pretty much in a great place. I think they're both still in their primes, and this is the best time to see them fight.